This week on Motor Week, Richard Hammond is in Paris. He finds out what the French people think of their only supercar, the Venturi. Ken Gibson adds a touch of class with Bentley's new Continental. Also this week, Royle takes an exclusive look at the revised Audi A8. And Ginny Buckley is in Dublin, around town, in the Daewoo Matiz.
I'm not one to boast or to gloat, but this to me would appear to be the very definition of a pretty good day. We're in Paris, there's the Arc de Triomphe behind us, just to prove it, and the car we have to play in is the new Venturi Atlantique. New because here, its mid-mounted engine, 3-litre V6, has been replaced. So I can't see a drawback to a day like that really, unless perhaps it is the prospect of driving a 175-mile-an-hour supercar through the chaos of the Parisian traffic. Zut alors, get out of my way, you silly French driver. Of course, the main difference is just behind my head, about 10 inches behind my head. It's the engine. The previous version of this car was also a V6, as this is, but the main difference, it had one big turbo, which meant all was nice and quiet, and then you hit 4,000 revs, and, well, it all got a bit silly, really. Next thing you know, time to hand your licence in. The new one, still a V6, still 3-litre, but it's got 2 turbos. That means it's all a little bit more subtle, a little bit more refined. The power is spread out throughout the range. It feels like a far more torquey engine. And in character, what it leads to is a far more usable piece of kit. The power is always available. You can be tootling along in 5th gear, you can just floor it, and off you go from 2,500 revs, no problem. Very much like a non-turbo powerful engine. This is the only French supercar there is. But think of supercar territory, taut, mean, stripped out, bare racer. It ain't. We've got electric windows, we've got electric mirrors, we've got air conditioning, we've got comfortable, sumptuous leather upholstery. Spartan, it certainly isn't. It's more like an executive cruiser in here. Don't ever let BMW tell you that their M3 is the only usable supercar, because this is a city car. Okay, there aren't an extra set of seats in the back for the kids. You have to take the kids. The cabin is actually pretty spacious. There's more than enough room for 6-footers, and it is not claustrophobic. Okay, right now we're stuck in the city, but on the way to Paris, we explored the car's real supercar potential, and there's plenty of it. Mid-engine, so it's balanced perfectly front and rear, excellent fast steering with loads of feedback. It really can do the job on the open road. This is a supercar, there's no denying it, and this, Paris. Not really supercar territory. In fact, there's only one other supercar that I can ever imagine being prepared to take into Paris, and that's the Honda NSX. But unlike the Honda NSX, which to me will always look like a Japanese interpretation of the supercar, this, made in Europe, made in France, has a little bit of European flair, a bit of charm, a little bit of city chic. Unlike this person, who has no style. French. We're from television in England, and we're talking about this car.
Yeah.
Do you know what this car is?
No.
Do you like it?
Yes. Quite well, yes.
Do you like it? What do you think of the car?
C'est sympa. Lovely car. Mais...
It's lovely. You don't know what it is? Do you know what car this is?
No, I don't.
You've never heard of this at all?
Never seen this before.
Okay, it's a Venturi Atlantique, and it's a French car.
Okay.
What do you think of it?
I think it looks terrific.
Where do you think it's made? Fabrique en where?
Au Japon. Japon.
No, not Japanese.
Japanese.
Where do you think?
C'est américain.
No, not American.
Anglais alors.
No, not English. It's made in France. It's French.
C'est pas vrai, ça ressemble pas à du français ça.
It is. It's French. It is a
vrai?
French car. Yeah.
C'est vrai. Ah bon, French car. Bon.
I'm happy to know that it's a French car, that in France we can make this sort of car.
Do you know where it is made?
Venturi, it's made in Italy, no?
No.
In England?
No.
In America?
No.
In France?
Yes.
Oh, fine.
Is it better than a Ferrari?
Ah no. Ferrari is the best.
You'd rather have a Ferrari? It's not French. This is French.
Yes, but I think Ferrari, it's mythic.
Okay.
Ferrari is the best car.
And so comes the end of my day in Paris with a French supercar. And with that mid-mounted engine putting over 300 bhp through the rear wheels, it is very much a supercar. And with the exception of the NSX, one of the few that are at home in the madness of a city like Paris. And unlike the NSX, it does perhaps bring a certain European design flair, chic and style. Perhaps the only thing it's missing is one of the better known prestige badges. But then everybody has to start somewhere. Me, I've got a bus to catch.
Now, arriving at five-star luxury hotels is all about arriving in style. You might think that a helicopter pad and a helicopter could be the perfect way. I don't think so. If you give me the chance, I reckon I'd make a bigger impression turning up at the doors in my Bentley. £255,000. That's what it would cost you to buy this Bentley Sedanka Coupe. But this is a Bentley with a none-too-subtle difference. Bentley say they wanted to make the ultimate statement when they made this car, and that's why we've got this hideous burnt orange metallic colour. 50% of these cars are going to go to the Sunshine States of America, and you've guessed it, the old Yanks demand something very, very extrovert. But personally, I think the original Bentley boys will be turning in their grave. So what's it like driving a mobile fortune? First impression is of absolute comfort. It's like sitting on a large throne. It also feels frighteningly powerful. That's probably because it's got a 6.7 litre monster engine with 400 brake horsepower that will propel this 2.5 tons worth of metal from 0 to 60 in a frightening 6.1 seconds. Should you be allowed, it would also take you rapidly to 155 miles an hour. I was really apprehensive before I got in. I mean, 250,000, that's £250,000. To be honest, I was more than apprehensive. I was bloody scared. I mean, what if somebody bumps into you? But the fact is, everybody is paying homage to you. There's no navigation system. I mean, you even get one of those in a Vauxhall Vectra. That's optional in the Bentley, though. And I wouldn't have minded having a TV screen. You get one of those in a BMW 5 Series. Well, there's a herd of cows being sacrificed for the leather for this, and by God, though, it was worth it, because comfort-wise, I am just sitting in seventh heaven here. It is so relaxing. The only danger is you can imagine yourself nodding off. And as for the back, well, to be quite frank, there is no room at all, or very little. This is definitely not the Bentley you want to be chauffeured in. This is a driver's car, and this is the place you want to be. You don't feel too cramped, though, because you've got the ultimate sunroof. 2 removable panels, second sunroof for the people sitting in the back, and this Bentley converts, at the touch of a button, into a soft-top sports car. Incredible thing about Bentley owners is, apparently, the average one owns between 6 and 10 cars, including at least 2 supercars like a Ferrari and a Porsche 911. It's a hard life being a Bentley owner. Behind all the typically traditional Bentley wood and all the rest of it, though, this Bentley is an absolute aristocratic hooligan. Not surprisingly, you don't see too many Bentley owners doing the shopping, using them for the day-to-day things. So, anyway, here we are. Let's just park up. No wonder they don't like parking Bentleys at supermarkets. I've just found out why. At nearly 18 foot, they're a nightmare. You do realise, of course, that the Bentley badge is now actually no longer a Bentley, because, of course, it's owned by Volkswagen. Good news is that they intend, they say, keeping the badge and everything else about the car just so. What it'll mean, though, is they're going to invest £500 million of their money on a new model range of Bentleys. that's it. I've had my amazing day as king of the road, but let's get back to reality. This car is still £255,000. For that, you could buy 6 people's homes here. So, do I want to be Mr. Sensible? I don't think so. What I really want is to keep my motoring fantasy.
Coming up after the break, Ian Royle with an exclusive look at the revised Audi A8, and Ginny Buckley takes Daewoo's Matiz for a drive around Dublin.
If you're the chief executive of a large company, managing director of your own business, or just generally wealthy, there are choices galore when it comes to choosing your large executive limousine. Out goes the old slab-sided S-Class to be replaced by a slimmed-down, ultra-luxurious, gadget-packed new S-Series. There's the BMW 7 Series, beginning to look rather outdated now, the Lexus LS400, and Jaguar and Daimler saloons. Now there's one car missing from that list, and that's Audi's revolutionary large saloon, the A8. Now with the advent of the new S-Class, a lot of car manufacturers have taken to freshening up their large executive saloons until new cars come on stream a few years down the line. And we've dragged ourselves, kicking and screaming, from our desks in cold, grimy Britain to the glorious Côte d'Azur, Bully-sur-Mer, on a beautiful day to see what changes Audi have made to the A8. And I have to tell you that those changes to the A8 are few and far between. Audi's philosophy is, why change a winning formula? The A8 is about just over halfway through its current life. Exterior changes you'll notice very few. Slight revisions to the bumpers front and rear, and the addition of that chrome strip there. The lights at the front are different too. There have been some changes inside the cabin, but the most important thing are the changes to the engines. But it's with the engines that you should notice the difference if you get a chance to drive or even buy a newly revised A8. It's that 5-valve per cylinder technology which Audi have now introduced to the 2 V8 engines in the range. The 2.8 V6 remains unchanged, but the 3.7 and the 4.2 get increase in power and torque, and it will make a difference. The 3.7 at the moment currently produces 230 brake horsepower. That rises to 260 brake horsepower, and the 4.2 gets an extra 10 horses to a mere 310 brake horsepower. They are both delightful engines. Now, it's at this point that I have to come clean with you and tell you that my own personal choice of car that is sat at home in my driveway right now, back in Britain, is one of these, an Audi A8 3.7. It's not a loan car, it's not a test car, it's a car I bought with my own money, and it's a car I found very few faults with in the 9 months or so that we've had it now. Inside the cabin, immediately you can tell a few minor differences they've changed. For instance, the center console there is different. You get this TV screen which doubles up as the radio and the CD and a navigation system too. That's changed. Some slightly different wood trims and some Alcantara in these door panels too. But inside, they've just made minor changes rather than going the whole hog.
David, what were the main reasons behind the decision to slightly revamp the A8 at this stage of its life?
Well, the car has been on the market now for over 3 years, and we didn't feel there was a need to do anything major to the car, but we felt we wanted to upgrade it a bit to put in some of the learning we've developed over the last 3 years, to give existing customers a reason to change for a new car, but also not to make the old car obsolete. So the visual changes are quite subtle, but there's been quite a lot of engineering changes underneath.
And what about the engines? That's probably the main area that's been changed.
Yeah, that's the main area, particularly on the V8s. The main change has been that the cars have gone from 4 valves per cylinder to 5 valves per cylinder, which means a modest increase in power, but major improvements in terms of emissions and in terms of fuel consumption.
So it is worth that extra valve per cylinder?
Yeah, it makes it a better car, makes it more drivable, the throttle response is better, and obviously the environmental damage is less.
And what about the running gear? That's changed slightly, hasn't it, with an all-aluminium running gear?
That's right, lots of new components in the running gear. The essential design of the suspension components is the same, but a lot more are now made out of aluminium, reducing unsprung weight, and with different settings for the springs and dampers, it really improves the ride and handling compromise.
Now, one thing you would expect with such a large car as this is awful fuel consumption. You'd expect it to be a big gas guzzler, and it is to a certain extent around town, but get it on a run, get it on the motorway, and it is really excellent. For instance, let me just give you an example. If you cruised at 90 miles per hour on the motorway all day long, the A8 3.7 with that V8 engine would do 30 miles to the gallon, and that really is remarkable for such a large car. So, can I recommend an Audi A8 to you? Well, yes, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I've actually bought one of these cars, and up against the rather staid-looking BMW 7 Series and the rather dull and boring Lexus LS400, the A8 stands out like a shining beacon. The S-Class undoubtedly is going to give all of those cars a real run for the money. Prices for the A8, well, undoubtedly they'll rise when this revised version goes on sale. At the moment they start at £36,500 for the 2.8. If you want it in sport trim, you add an extra £4,000 on. That then goes through the 3.7 and the 4.2 Quattro right up to the all-singing, all-dancingly, stunningly quick S8 at £62,000. Me? I'm off for a coffee and a croissant.
After the last couple of budgets, you could be forgiven for thinking that the government's public enemy #1 is in fact the motorist. Every year we get stung just a little bit more for making a huge investment in buying a car, for spending hundreds of pounds of our hard-earned cash on running it, and wasting countless hours stuck in traffic on our congested roads. It makes you wonder why we bother, doesn't it? Still, the manufacturers seem to have cottoned on to our worries, and they reckon they've come up with a solution to cheaper motoring and keeping the Chancellor happy. They started off in the East, in countries used to terrible traffic and pollution, and they're catching on over here in a big way. First was the Seat Rossa, followed by Ford's curvy car. More recently, we've seen the Daihatsu Move and the Hyundai Atoz. Dare we mention the Mercedes A-Class? Well, yes, it did have a tendency to roll around a bit too much in the early days, but those problems are over and it's all sorted now. Yes, our roads are now packed with diminutive little motors, and this is the latest addition to the baby brigade. It belongs to Daewoo, and they've christened it the Matiz. This baby of the Korean Daewoo family is the latest in 4 new models they've launched over the past 12 months, and I reckon they've saved the cutest till last. It's cheeky and perky, and it reminds me of a taller version of Renault's Twingo, which has unfortunately never been on sale here in the UK. This is the 5-door SE Plus, and it'll cost you £7,320. The entry-level model is exactly £1,000 less. Now, the Matiz is the smallest car in its very tiny class, at just under 3.5 metres long. But what it lacks in length, it more than makes up for in height. Which means, of course, that you get plenty of headroom in here. In fact, the whole driving position is extremely comfortable, and you do feel like you're actually in a larger car. There's plenty of legroom, and the boot is also a usable size. You get even more space if you fold the rear seats down. The interior isn't as adventurous as it should be. It's smart and it's practical, and the curves are a bit reminiscent of the car, but I reckon they should have gone for something a bit more daring. Under the bonnet, you'll discover that the Matiz is no pocket rocket. It's propelled along by a tiny 800cc engine that produces just 50 brake horsepower. So you won't find yourself whizzing around at great speeds, but you will find yourself pleasantly surprised at just how nippy it feels around town. Out on the open roads, the experience isn't quite as fun. You can feel the 800cc's begin to struggle and you really need to work the engine. And as for the motorway, well, you're in for a noisy ride. But don't forget, this is a small city car, and that is where it will spend most of its life, pottering around town. The Matiz is an ideal car if you're working on a very tight budget, or it would be a great second car. Overall, it's an excellent package at a very affordable price. It'll do 44 miles to the gallon, and it's a very cheap insurance group too. And don't forget, this is a Daewoo we're talking about. You know, great specs. And let's not forget the full Daewoo after-sales package.
The new Matiz is really well specified. Even the base model comes with power steering, twin airbags. So for 6320, you're not going to need to add a lot more equipment to the basic model. Well, since we launched, we asked our customers what they wanted out of a car company, and the resounding answer was better after-sales support. So we introduced a 3-year warranty, 3 years AA cover, 3 years free servicing, including parts and labour. So all that comes with every Daewoo as standard.
All in all, I reckon that the future is looking rosy for this little Korean bundle. And who knows, its winning combination may even tempt John Two Jags Prescott into practising what he preaches.
The Mercedes A-Class has made an even stronger case for itself by achieving a full 4-star rating in recent independent crash tests. Mercedes-Benz always promised class-leading safety, with the unique sandwich floor construction making the engine push under the floor in a frontal impact. As well as the frontal impact, the A-Class scored top marks in the important side impact test as well. Also this week, Alfa Romeo has announced prices for the 166. The entry-level 2-litre twin-spark 16-valve comes in at $23,371. Topping out the range, the 3-litre 24-valve Sportronic at $30,000. Nice model, shame about the name. Next week on Motor Week, Ian Royle travels to Seville for a drive of Rover's brand new edition, the 75. Richard Hammond takes an exclusive look at the new V6 Renault Espace, and our cameras gauge the reaction of British journalists in Cannes during Ford's launch of the Focus Estate.